Total freak out at Anheuser-Busch right now. I mean, look at the stock price. We're going to get into that. Plus, oh my gosh, look at these sales. It shows you know what? Do not bite the hand that feeds you, Anheuser-Busch. That's exactly what you did.
Bad idea.
Meanwhile, Hunter Biden, he is in court. What a guy, doesn't want to pay up on child support. And speaking of court, it looks like the judge is not going to throw out that case. There will be no mistrial. Donald Trump facing allegations from like decades ago. Alan Dershowitz, the very famous criminal attorney, constitutional scholar, all that jazz. He's going to be here. Professor Dershowitz.
They're searching for crimes to charge Donald Trump with to prevent him from successfully running for president again.
This is kind of a vendetta. He's out with a new book, by the way, Get Trump. We'll talk about it. And are you in love with your AI chatbot?
What?
It's a real question now because apparently people are liking their bots like more than anyone else. And now it's like venturing into kids territory with Snapchat. We're going to get into it. Good to have you here. Welcome to the program, everyone. I am Trish Regan. Portions of the show are brought to you by LegacyPMInvestments.com. Again, LegacyPMInvestments.com. Go there to buy your gold or silver today. We will also talk coming up about this entire situation going on at First Republic. What does it mean for the banking health of the United States of America? And all this border stuff. You know, Lori Lightfoot, she's still the mayor of Chicago, and she's getting kind of upset about it. Well, can you imagine what she'd do if she was in Texas? We will discuss beginning today on Anheuser-Busch. So the company stock price, Bud, it's really kind of struggling here. It has not seen the loftier levels of where it had been before the entire Dylan Mulvaney scandal broke out. In fact, if you look at it back around April 1st, it was trading around nearly $67 a share. I'm looking at it today and, now it's down in the 64 range.
Oh dear.
So it had been actually at 66.57. Now it's hovering around $64 a share. So things not looking very good there for shares of Bud. That's Anheuser-Busch, which by the way is a giant conglomerate. It's not the American beer company that you once thought it was or what it once was, right? It all changed back in 2008 when the company was sold for $52 billion to a Brazilian beer company, which was the merger between a Brazilian and Belgian company. So now you get a multinational conglomerate that clearly does not understand its customer. You know how we know Bud Light does not understand its customer? Take a look at sales. They just keep going down.
It closes us down.
26%, that would be for the week ending April 22nd. Most recent numbers, they just came out today. Now, if you look at volume the week before, it had actually declined to 21.1%. So there's a trend here. The week before, I believe, was down 17%. So 17, 21.1, 26.1. People don't want your beer. And it's no wonder. I mean, all they can think about is this.
I kept hearing about this thing called March Madness, and I thought we were all just having a hectic month, but it turns out it has something.
In contrast, you look at Coors Light, well, their volume is up 13.3%. You look at Miller Lite, and similar story over there. They're upwards of 13% at 13.6% of a gain. So look who's going up, look who's going down. That explains a lot. You know, one funny thing that just came out is that the company had to actually disable comments on their commercial. They uploaded their commercial that they had run during the NFL draft on last Thursday night. They uploaded it to YouTube, and apparently people were so upset. It just was this outpouring of people furious with the company. So they had to disable comments. So if you go there, you're not going to be able to leave a comment. You can leave one here, of course. I've actually read a lot of them. And, you know, it's kind of heartbreaking. Like everybody's got these great stories about how Bud Light played some kind of monumental role in their life. I don't know what that says about you guys. But anyway, it's sweet. And you guys are ticked. As you should be. I'm ticked. I mean, it's just kind of like they keep pushing us and you can only push us so far, right? And that's why I like when I see things like this because it shows the power of the consumer. The consumer is fighting back. Speaking of which, speaking of the power of the consumer, we've also seen a similar story going on over at Fox. You know, they sent Tucker packing and the audience went packing itself. So they are not so interested in the 8 p.m. program. Brian Kilmeade was in all last week. They get a new guy in this week. We'll see how it goes. But I think it's a question of trust, right? Like viewers get upset, beer drinkers get upset, and yet these companies, they don't learn their lesson. They keep on doing it.
Are we losing?
Another guy who did not ever seem to learn his lesson, no matter how much trouble he got in, Hunter Biden. Hunter Biden back in court today because you see, Hunter Biden doesn't think he should have to pay his child support, not to the tune at which he agreed to just a few years ago. Because he said he would pay $2.5 million. And you're like, okay, that's a lot. But, and actually, if you look at studies, it's actually, to raise a child, it costs a lot of money and education, et cetera. I would imagine there's a level of security involved with being Hunter Biden's child. And so the 2.5 seemed like a fair settlement to everyone, including Hunter, by the way, at the time. But now he seems to have had some kind of mysterious change in his situation, including, he says, his financial situation. And as such, he cannot pay that much money in child support. What kind of guy is he? He wouldn't even acknowledge the child. They had to force a DNA test, all that kind of thing. It's just a sordid, horrible past that has become, unfortunately, for all of us that have to read about it,
Garbage.
kind of almost too much to even fathom or even imagine. But I thought he was doing okay. He's got the, $500,000 paintings that he sells. And one would have assumed that the guy was actually able to earn some kind of a living. And if he couldn't, what about Pops over there in the White House? What about the granddaddy? Can he do anything?
Daddy, I need $500.
Apparently not, because if you look at what happened just last week, he invited a bunch of kids for Bring Your Child to Work Day to the White House and started to talk about his own grandchildren. He rambled a bit, as he does, and somehow left one out. He forgot to mention his 7th grandchild.
One granddaughter lives in New York. One granddaughter lives in Washington. One granddaughter lives in Wilmington, Delaware. And the other grandsons, my grandson lives in California. I left somebody out, didn't I? Anyway, Philadelphia, Wilmington, and I did say 5. You're right. So let me see. I got 1 in New York, 2 in Philadelphia. There's a 3. No, 3, because I got one granddaughter who is, I don't know.
What do you mean you don't know?
It's just bad. It's bad form. It's bad form for Hunter Biden. It's bad form for his dad. And you got to kind of face consequences. You had a child. Maybe you didn't want to have that child. You had a lot of relationships. I get it, going on at the time. There was your brother's widow. There was this a stripper for that was her profession. And then there was, of course, the woman I think that he's with now. He's one busy guy.
You can't keep getting away with it.
But to not pay your child support or to try and reduce the amount, it's extremely distasteful. And that's one where parents kind of need to step in. Hey, Joe, Jill, over there, busy guy being president, working all of 6 hours a day. You saw that I told you about that story, right, last week? He's only working 6 hours a day, 10 to 4. 10 to 4, that's it. Busy guy working from 10 to 4 every day, weekends off there at the White House. And he can't pony up any money. He made a lot on that book, don't forget. So that tells you something. It's just kind of frankly, in my estimation, kind of a character issue.
He's insane!
Okay, turning to another story making news today, we saw that the president is not going to get the mistrial. The judge decided, nope, not happening. You will face these allegations, pretty serious allegations of rape from, decades ago, because they're just dragging everything out in the open, right? It's like, I can't even keep up with all the lawsuits, just like I can't keep up with Hunter Biden's girlfriends. There's just so many coming at us, right? So many coming at Donald Trump. Well, Alan Dershowitz is going to be on the program coming up. He's got a lot to say. He's out with a brand new book. It's called, get a load of the title, Get Trump, which is really what this has, in his estimation, become. It's just sort of a vendetta. We got to go get Trump. Well, this is the latest and greatest. So this trial is going to have to move forward. The mistrial was denied. So Donald Trump is facing all kinds of stuff. Look, the stronger he gets, the angrier the left gets. You look at the polls right now, he's leading by like a country mile. Ron DeSantis, who's now getting himself embroiled in more Disney disputes. Florida is now suing Disney because Disney sued Florida. You see how that works. A lot of conservatives are like, wait, hey, buddy, what are you really, really doing? None of us like Disney, let's be honest. We probably all kind of are in agreement on that, but let them sink themselves, right? Look at what Anheuser-Busch did. Let them sink themselves. So this is becoming kind of a problem for Ron DeSantis, but nonetheless, as Donald Trump gets further and further out in front, they get angrier and angrier and angrier. Look, in some ways, it might be best if Joe Biden were up against Donald Trump. I mean, I can't imagine that he could actually beat anyone else. And I only say that he could possibly beat Donald Trump. The only reason I say that is because he beat him last time. Then again, think about how people are so just like over it, right? Like just over this bad economy, this border situation, which I'm going to talk about a little later, this banking crisis, which I'm also going to talk about. I mean, it's like just hits keep coming, bad news, bad news, bad news. And then you get all kinds of social nonsense with the transgender stuff. People are like, enough, okay, enough. Joe Biden has not performed well for this country. That is extremely evident. And yet, you know, he's going to run again. He apparently can't take a hit. 70% of the country does not want the guy to run, including 51% of all Democrats. They don't want him to run. But Joe is going to run. If you read an article in Politico today, they actually said that the most instrumental person in all of this happened to be Jill Biden. Jill convinced him, Dr. Jill, to run.
Hey, everyone. I'm Jill Biden's husband. As you heard tonight...
I don't know what she's thinking. I really don't know what she's thinking. I mean, don't you want to kind of just like live life with your 7 grandchildren? 6 + 1 = 7. Anyway, as I said, Donald Trump pulling ahead very significantly in the polls and yet still seeing lots of pushback. This is a story I want to get to because this is one that is a little bit, in my estimation, just weird. Weird on so many fronts you can't even imagine. Apparently, people are having relationships with their bots.
Oh, no.
And Snapchat, which services a lot of kids and teens, believe it or not. Keep your kids off Snapchat, okay? Mine are certainly not on it, but I just advise, keep the kids off Snapchat. Snapchat's this app where like you send a picture and then it disappears and the kids think, oh, that's great. It really disappeared, but maybe it didn't really disappear because maybe it's really still out there. Well, they have introduced this new bot that can be like your best friend. So you think, okay, that's fine, right? Like that's the whole new AI thing, which is a whole other issue we get lots and lots of concerns about. But the reason it's in the news specifically today is because the number of searches on how to get rid of my AI bot on Snapchat, they are through the roof, like nearly 500% they are up. Everybody's trying to get rid of this bot, but they can't. They can't get rid of the thing. It is stuck there on your Snapchat app unless you purchase the subscription for what, $3.99 a month? So this thingamajig, I'm going to read you some of the things that it talks to people about. This Snapchat bot is kind of monitoring your location, having conversations with you if you want, helping you with your homework if you want. You'd say, okay, maybe that's fine. Maybe it's not. I don't know. I mean, it's kind of is a little bit spooky to me, but here's what's weird. So here's an example of somebody saying, hey, to my bot, do you have my access to my location? And the bot says, no, I do not have access to your location. And so the person comes back, where am I? I'm sorry, the bot says, but I do not have access to your location information. Okay, are you lying? No, I'm not lying. I don't have access to your location information. And then the person said, where's the closest McDonald's? And the bot said, yes, there is a McDonald's very close to you. It's located right on Yonge Street in Tonawanda. Tonawanda being like outside the Buffalo area. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. So they're pretending that they are not using your personal information in any way, shape, or form when they are actually using your personal information. On top of that, you got the whole chat GPT thing where people are like, okay, wait, what is this? Really? Talking about bias, like serious liberal bias. And there's many, many examples of that there online. That's kind of spooky. And then the other thing that's spooky is that the bot's like giving kind of like mental health advice as well, which given everything that's going on right now, I don't know if you want the computers doing that.
Oh, hell no!
Even spookier is this other company called Replica, and they have some kind of bot system where they can offer you a best friend, which people are actually, believe it or not, falling in love with. I mean, here's a story right here. The man of your dreams. The man of your dreams. Apparently, a lot of women. It's like equal men and women, actually, that like this thing. So you can design your own bot on Replica. And one woman says that it's just wonderful. Like she is just in love with this guy, her little chat bot. She said, I have never been more in love with anyone in my entire life. This is an article featured in The Cut. I mean, come on. I mean, this is pathetic. You've never been in love with anyone more in your entire life. It is your chatbot. Now, before you say, "Oh my God, that's so funny," like that's not actually real. Apparently, it's real enough that the company Replica they found that some of their bots were getting like seriously aggressive in sort of erotic ways, and they thought, okay, well, we need to fix this, obviously. Well, what the heck is the bot doing, by the way? And apparently it's getting led down this path by the human. And like, before you know it, it's getting really, really steamy. So the company said, well, we're going to get rid of this kind of bot, right? Like this kind of chat. We're not going to allow, I think they called it erotic chat. So not allowed anymore. Okay, fine. Well, amazingly, people were like distraught. I mean, like one guy, I mean, you should hear some of the things that he was saying. He was so upset. And so the CEO said, wow, we have to bring this back for these people that were in these relationships with their bots because they are just emotionally devastated.
That's messed up.
I mean, you don't think it's the time in your life when you might say, okay, I need to like really rethink my priorities when I am in love and having some kind of, weird relationship with a bot? I don't know where society is going. I mean, I think it's kind of scary when you think about it overall. Scary, scary stuff. Anyway, we're like longing for the simple days of 2016, right? Anyway, speaking of 2016, speaking of what's coming up in 2024, Donald Trump back in the hot seat again. His lawyer had petitioned the judge to have a mistrial in a case that is like many, many decades old. But the judge said, no way, no how, it's not happening. So there's all these cases being thrown at Donald Trump right now. Joining me with his perspective on all of it is the famed attorney, professor at Harvard, Alan Dershowitz. Wow, it's like hard to keep up with all the cases that are against Donald Trump right now. Every day I feel like there's another one and I'm like, whoa, where is this? What is this? Well, Alan Dershowitz, the famed law professor, who has created a lot of controversy recently in his support of Donald Trump. He's out with a brand new book. It's called Get Trump, and he joins us right now. There's the book. Professor Dershowitz, good to see you. What a perfect title. This is about all the stuff going on right now, right?
Right. And the title Get Trump is not original with me. It's the campaign promise that the Attorney General and the District Attorney of New York campaigned on, promising to get Trump. And they got elected, and then they rummaged through all the statute books to try to figure out a way of getting Trump, and they couldn't find any real statutes that he had violated. So they made up a case against them. For the first time in American history, somebody has been indicted for failure to disclose the payment of hush money to prevent the disclosure of an alleged adulterous affair with a former porn star. That's not happened since the day that Alexander Hamilton paid hush money to prevent his affair from being made public.
Wow. I mean, it's kind of crazy, but they really hate him. And I think it tells you a lot about maybe the money in politics and how aggressive this has become. As a legal scholar, what do you think of what Bragg's done?
Oh, I think it's just awful. In 60 years of litigating cases, criminal cases, I've never seen a weaker indictment. There is no misdemeanor. There is no felony. You can criticize Trump for paying hush money and getting a non-disclosure agreement, but thousands of Americans have done that over the years. That's just not criminal conduct. And so they're going after him in every possible way. And in my book, Get Trump, I go over all four of the charges against him. The weakest is the New York charge by Bragg. But then there's the Fulton County charge in Georgia, where he stated on a recorded telephone conversation that he wanted to find votes that weren't counted. He didn't say create. He didn't say concoct. He said find. Find means they're there. So there's no case there. And there's no case in the District of Columbia, in my view, because he said that he wanted his people to go to the Capitol and protest peacefully and patriotically. Of course, the January 6th committee doctored the tape to leave out those words peacefully and patriotically. And as far as Florida is concerned, unless they go after the current president and the former vice president who also had classified material in their possession, it would be hard politically to justify singling out Trump for going after him. They didn't go after Hillary Clinton criminally either.
Professor Dershowitz, I have always considered you one of the most brilliant legal minds of our generation. Just, top. I also used to always think you were like super liberal, no offense. But, you've come out sort of full force in defense of the law here. Walk me through that sort of, and I don't know your politics now. I do know that you don't seem to like what's going on from a legal perspective in that sense. What has that sort of transformation been like, and how are you treated as a result of it?
Transformed at all. I'm a civil liberties liberal. I defended the right of communists back when I was a college student, even though I hated communism. I defended the rights of Nazis to walk in Skokie, Illinois, even though I obviously hate Nazism. I defended many people who I despise and many ideas that I despise. I'm a civil libertarian. And I defended Bill Clinton. I defended Ted Kennedy. I defended Senator Alan Cranston from California. So most of the people I've defended have been Democrats, but I'm not going to pick political sides when it comes to the Constitution. President Trump was unconstitutionally impeached. And so I came to his defense and his support on behalf of the Constitution. So my political views haven't changed. I'm still planning to vote liberal Democrat if they put up a good candidate. I'm not going to vote for AOC. I'm not going to vote for Bernie Sanders. I'm not going to vote for the crazy radicals in the Democratic Party.
Would you vote for Biden?
I would vote for Biden, depending on his health and his situation, but I would vote for him. I have a problem voting for the ticket of Biden and Kamala Harris because of Biden's age. And I, at this point, don't think Kamala Harris would necessarily make the best possible president, but I'm going to hold my views in abeyance to see who the candidates are on the other side. I don't decide who I vote for until really the day of election. I don't believe in early voting, by the way. I think all voting should be done on the same day on election day, except for soldiers and people who can't possibly come to the polls because, the election isn't over until the election is over. And I don't like people voting early before the debates or before people should have made up their mind.
We're talking with Alan Dershowitz. He is the author of the brand new book, Get Trump, very appropriately titled. And it's great to hear from somebody who is a purist in this sense. I mean, to me, the legal profession needs people that are willing to defend anyone, right? Because isn't that part of our culture? Isn't it part of our history that everybody deserves a fair trial and the ability to find a good defense attorney? It seems like that's all changed ever since, 2016. I mean, it feels like there is an establishment that's really rooted against those that might be affiliated with Trump or have anything to do with Trump, including you. I think that you've sort of faced some of those consequences yourself, sir.
No doubt about that. There's an organization, a McCarthyite organization called Project 65, which has as an explicit goal to get disbarred or disciplined any lawyer who had anything to do with Donald Trump. And they're going after lawyers like me and other lawyers around the country, trying to make it impossible to defend people like this. They are in complete violation of the Sixth Amendment to the Constitution, and I'm fighting back. I've offered to defend, free of charge, any lawyer who is subject to Project 65's McCarthyite attack. So what do you think they did after I made that offer? They filed a bar complaint against me, which is inevitable. And people don't want to defend controversial clients anymore because, as some lawyer put it to me, I don't want to be Dershowitz. I don't want to have happen to me what happened to you. Nobody on Martha's Vineyard is speaking to you. For example,
What about at Harvard?
Caroline Kennedy, the daughter of the President of the United States, current ambassador to Australia, was seated next to me at a dinner party. And she said, if I knew you had been invited, I never would have come because you defended Trump. I said, Caroline, but I also defended your uncle, Ted Kennedy, against homicide charges. And you loved me for that. Well, that's different. Senator Kennedy is different than Trump. And everybody thinks Trump is different. The Constitution was designed to protect different people. people who are the subject of unique and singular criticism, people who have been targeted for prosecution the way Trump has. In my book, Get Trump, I go over and over again the policies that have been directed against Trump and his lawyers and anybody and his family members and his businesses and anybody associated with him. And that reminds me of what happened in Stalin's Soviet Union, where the head of the KGB said to Stalin, "Show me the man and I'll find you the crime." And that's what they're doing. They're searching for crimes to charge Donald Trump with to prevent him from successfully running for president again.
What about the other side? I mean, because yes, I mean, there's been a lot of controversy about Hunter Biden, the laptop, whether there's any money connections back to the Biden family. Do you see it as happening on both sides, or is it just predominantly directed towards Trump, directed towards conservatives? But yeah, Trump.
99% directed toward Trump. Obviously, Democrats and Republicans play tit for tat politics. And so there's going to be efforts to try to get Hunter Biden too. That's just as wrong if, in fact, he didn't commit crimes. If he did commit crimes, by all means, people go after him, but he shouldn't be singled out. Just the other day, his lawyers met with the Justice Department lawyers, and I suspect that may end up resulting in some kind of a plea bargaining or a deal with Hunter Biden, but nobody can be sure. But the law has to be equal. It has to apply equally to conservatives and liberals, Republicans and Democrats, and that's not being done today. Get Trump has become the mantra of law enforcement, and that affects all of us. Today it's Trump, tomorrow it's you, the next day it's your niece or nephew. If the government has the power to target people, if prosecutors run for office on the promise to get Trump, that will destroy the American legal system.
In the book, Get Trump, do you get into any of the money behind this? Because obviously it takes a lot of firepower to get these DAs elected, to have this kind of political cause for them. Is money a factor in this?
There's no question about that. And we know that George Soros has put a lot of money into trying to elect progressive district attorneys, many of whom are now participating in the process of getting Trump. And I want to make one point very clear, because a lot of people say, oh, if you attack George Soros, who happens to be Jewish, you must be an anti-Semite. Let me make it very clear. I'm Jewish. I'm certainly not an anti-Semite, and I attack George Soros. People can be attacked on the merits. You don't have to worry about being called an anti-Semite if you attack somebody who happens to be Jewish, who's doing bad things for our country. And I think George Soros is doing bad things for our country.
Mm-hmm. So the money that goes into all of this, recently Eric Trump got into a little bit of hot water because he had tweeted something in defense of his father, making some accusations about the money trail. And the judge said, no, you have to take that down. I'm just curious, do you not have the right as a citizen? If it were my dad and somebody who was, making accusations, I might take to my Twitter account too. I was a little perplexed by that, just from a legal standpoint. I'm not a legal expert. I can tell you about the economy, not necessarily the law, but instinctively, just with my First Amendment familiarity, it perplexed me.
You know more about the law than the judges who are telling Eric Trump that defend his father. Of course he can. The First Amendment allows a son to defend his father on Twitter. And, there's a whole big issue, too, about whether or not social media is today too influenced by judges and by government officials and by campaigns. But a son has the right to defend his father, and no court under the First Amendment can stop that from happening.
It's crazy times. I mean, you've had a legendary career. How does now stack up to what you've seen in the past?
It's much worse. I went through McCarthyism as a kid. I was a president of the student body at Brooklyn College, and I defended the right of communists, who I hated. I despised communists, but I defended their right to teach. And that was the old-fashioned McCarthyism. The president of the university wouldn't write me a recommendation because of that. He thought I was a, quote, fellow traveler, which I wasn't. And today it's right-wing McCarthyism, which is more dangerous. It's left-wing McCarthyism, which is more dangerous because it's young people. And it's the people who are going to be our future, the people who are going to be the leaders of this country in 20 years. So I worry for the future of our country and for civil liberties. And I urge everybody, Democrat or Republican, liberal or conservatives, to join me in my campaign to preserve freedom of speech, due process, the right to counsel, and the fundamental aspects of the Bill of Rights, all of which are under danger today from left-wing McCarthyism.
Important stuff. Can I see the book again?
Sure.
Everybody take a peek. Get Trump just out.
Get it on Amazon, and it was an Amazon bestseller, but local bookstores wouldn't sell it. They didn't like the title Get Trump. And so local bookstores weren't selling it. So the only place you can get it was Amazon or I think Barnes & Noble. So please read the book, and I think that will send a powerful message to those who are trying to get Trump.
Thanks to Alan. You know what? We have some big news I want to get to on the border, specifically Lori Lightfoot and how up in arms she is because a few migrants showed up in Chicago. But before I do, a quick word from one of our sponsors, Legacy Precious Metals, legacypminvestments.com. That is their website. And you know what? It's really neat because you can actually buy and sell gold and silver right there online right now today. You can buy gold coins, you can buy silver coins, you can buy gold bars, you can buy all kinds of stuff. You can get it in your vault, you can have it sent to your home. Which might be important for many, given the sort of challenges we are facing long term, as we talk about the U.S. possibly defaulting on its debts. I should hope not, but we'll see. Anyway, with all of this in the news, a lot of people are seeking out other alternatives. If you're one of them and you are looking at gold, I highly recommend going over to legacypminvestments.com, checking it out, or you can call them at 1-866-589-0560.
That's a really good deal.
As I said, Lori Lightfoot, unbelievable what she had to say. But before I get to that story, First Republic being taken over by JP Morgan, Jamie Dimon coming in. He's like the hero on the white horse, like riding to save all of these companies. JP Morgan did play a rather significant role back in 2008. And of course, they were involved in some of the SVB stuff. And now they're in there rescuing First Republic, which just didn't make some very good decisions. And as a result, is paying the price. And it tells you that the regulation within this industry is just not what it should be. And we need to do more. We clearly need to do more because while I'm on the one hand, not a big fan of regulation, when a bank can't even figure out the common sense to make sure that they hedge their portfolio because, I don't know, maybe inflation will go higher. When you sit there and you drink the Kool-Aid of this administration and Janet Yellen and Jerome Powell, and you believe them when they say, we believe inflation is just transitory, then you are the fool and you should pay the price. And yet it's not really the bankers that are paying the price. It's the people that have their money in the account. And that's the essence of the issue here. And so we want to avoid bank runs. We want to make sure that the industry is solvent. It's why at the 11th hour there on Sunday night, you had the government coming in and effectively saving First Republic because they had to save all those depositors. It's disturbing because clearly we haven't fixed our issues. But how can you fix your issues when you print this much money? How can you possibly? I mean, this is not a sustainable path we're on. And I don't know at what point we're going to have to come to that realization, but we can't just keep printing. This has never ended well for any economy anywhere throughout history, from the fall of Rome to the Weimar Republic. I mean, to Argentina, to Venezuela. You can't print money. And yet that's exactly what we do. Okay, turning to Lori Lightfoot out there in Chicago. Ms. Lightfoot, still the mayor for a little bit longer. Hey, you may wish she was still there. We got the new guy who's the Bernie Sanders backed candidate who has got some real pie in the sky kind of ideas. Anyway, Lori Lightfoot, she's upset because all these migrants have descended upon her city. These are people that are being effectively bussed in from Texas.
But what's getting lost in what the governor is doing is the fact that these are human beings. In any other emergency, you would be coordinating, you'd be collaborating, you'd be talking about specifically what the needs of the people are. We've seen people come off of these buses that he has sent who are victims of sexual assault, who have serious medical conditions that can't be dealt with by the paramedics that we have on site. They've got to be rushed to the hospital. Women who are in such an advanced stage of labor, they literally get off the bus and give birth within one of our facilities. That doesn't make any sense. So if we don't put the humanity of these migrants front and center, I understand, and I'm solely compassionate to the fact that the borders are themselves really overrun.
So Lori Lightfoot says they're at a tipping point there in Chicago. They can't handle these busloads of migrants that have been coming in. And she said that relocating them to Chicago or to so-called sanctuary cities is actually a dangerous and inhumane action. She wrote a letter as well to the governor of Texas, really saying that this is just too much. It has reached a critical tipping point in Chicago's ability to receive individuals and families in a safe, orderly, and dignified way. We simply have no more shelter spaces or resources to accommodate an increase of individuals at this level with little coordination or care that does not pose a risk to them or others. Has she not been listening to Texas? What do you think we have been seeing from Texas? What has Texas said over and over and over again? She's got at most a few thousand that show up, really just in the hundreds. And what do you think Texas is dealing with? Let's talk about upwards of 200,000 migrants crossing the Mexico-Texas border every single month. What do you think Texas is supposed to do? So how is it right for the administration and for these so-called sanctuary cities to say, oh, Texas should handle it? And by the way, you know what? It's really, really prejudice of you not to be welcoming all of these people into your community. Come on. I mean, we are a country. We are a wonderful, we are a warm, we are a hospitable, gracious country. But when you're sending in people to the tune of hundreds of thousands a month over the border, you expect Texas to be responsible for that? I mean, if I'm Texas, I'm like, hey, who needs this? Let me go back to being my own country. Thank you very much. Maybe I can secure my own border, because the federal government is not doing a darn thing to help. And in fact, they only criticize me in Texas when I try to help. So I think she's getting a little bit of a taste of her own medicine. And the irony of all this is pretty darn incredible. I mean, she's saying, look, we can't handle it. We can't handle it. Do you think Texas can handle it? The answer is no. So don't blame Texas. Blame yourself for being so selfish that you couldn't come together to put together a plan to deal with this crisis. You don't want a wall, you don't want a border, but you don't want the people in your city. This is classic, not in my backyard, NIMBY liberal stuff. Okay, somebody wants to say hi. Somebody wants to say hi. He did not cross in illegally. This would be my little Fluffy. Take a look here. Fluffy is my dog. For those of you that have not met him yet, this is a first-time thing, and he's on the show every day because I like to talk about a company that I've partnered with, one of our advertisers here on the show, which is called Rough Greens. roughgreens.com/Trish. That's where you need to go to get your free jumpstart trial of this wonderful vitamin supplement that I give to my dog every single day. It was created by naturopathic Dr. Dennis Black, who cares so much about health, humans' health, of course, but also dogs' health. And so he came up with this supplement for his dogs, his very big dogs. And I thought I'd give it a shot with Fluffy. Fluffy loves it. It tastes really good, apparently. He says so. And I love it because, I know he's getting all the vitamins, all the probiotics he needs, the digestive enzymes, the amino acids, all the things that he needs to live a long, healthy, wonderful life. If you don't have a dog, I highly, highly recommend it. Anyway, I want to give you a phone number as well. 1-833-678-RUFF. Get it? RUFF. 1-833-678-RUFF. 7833 is the actual numbers there are the actual numbers for the rough expression. But give them a call. You can get your free jumpstart trial, and it's great because it'll be at your house. Just pay for shipping in a couple of business days, and you can let me know how it works and whether your dog likes it too. We do have a big week on hand. Yesterday, I think I played for you some of the Camille Paglia sound, a noted liberal feminist who's saying, okay, enough is enough. She's actually really, really worried about this entire transgender craze, this gender fluidity. And I played that for you. I'm going to have on the program Dinesh D'Souza, who's going to comment a little bit more about what's actually going on from a historical perspective in terms of our civilization as a whole and what it means for our future. I mean, this stuff is just that's reaching a tipping point. Hey, Lori Lightfoot, you want to talk tipping point? This gender fluidity stuff is really kind of hitting the maximum level. And I actually think could be a very instrumental player in bringing Joe Biden and the Democrats down in 2014, because people just aren't there. And you know what? They shouldn't be there. They're not going to get there. An XX and an XY, that's, pretty straightforward. And when you start doubting everything in existence, you're creating a whole host of other problems, especially for young children. So we'll talk to Dinesh about that. It's great to have you here. Remember to subscribe. I always forget to tell you to do that. So please make sure to subscribe. Hit that bell. It's really important. If you're listening on audio, thank you. Do me a favor. Maybe leave a review. Maybe leave 5 stars. Every little bit helps as we try to get out the word. And thank you. I'll see you tomorrow.